following program is exclusively produced and distributed by Dick Dinman's Double D Productions, Inc., all rights reserved. Hi, Golden Age film fanatics, and welcome to DVD Classics Corner on the Air. My name is Dick Dinman, and our goal is to become your exclusive guide to the very best of the Golden Age classics coming out on DVD. We'll have reviews, breaking news of upcoming releases, plenty of surprise guests, and a special feature devoted to the great Golden Age film composers, which we call Cinemusic. So let's turn on the marquee and lights, camera, action. It's time for Dick's Picks, in which I get to shine the spotlight on one of my Dick's Picks of the week. If you're like me, you'd have thought that the prospect of improving Some Like It Hot, which many consider the greatest screen comedy of all time, was a fool's errand. But I'm here to tell you that both you and I were wrong, because our friends at Kino Lorber have done precisely that by releasing on Blu-ray this laugh-out-loud comedic delight in a stunning new 4K transfer which serves to intensify every laugh and every song in this Billy Wilder co-written and directed delight. Some Like It Hot, in the modern miracle of the 4K format, is now available from Kino Lorber, even as we speak. Stay tuned for more Dick's Picks, coming up on DVD Classics Corner on the Air very soon.
I just wanted to get in the movies and blue my pants or scimitar my hair. Kiss all the girls with big knockers in the movie. This, to me, was the elegance of living.
That, of course, was the voice of the great Tony Curtis, a superstar who could play both comedy and drama with equal brilliance, and who was a great and cherished friend of DVD Classics Corner on the Air, having guested on my program more than 6 times. In honor of Kino Lorber's great new 4K Blu-ray rendition of Some Like It Hot, it is my pleasure to repeat significant portions of my very first chat with the late, great Tony Curtis. If I were to name all the great cinematic successes of our next guest, we'd lose very valuable airtime. All I'm going to say is that our next guest, now and forever, defines the words movie star. But this is one rarely rare movie star. He's equally superior in comedy and drama. I give you Tony Curtis.
Here I am, okay, pal. We're ready.
We're ready. Well, Tony...
You're taping me, are you?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Welcome, Tony Curtis, to DVD Classics Corner. It's a real pleasure having you here.
A pleasure to be here with you.
Well, I'll talk about Some Like It Hot first. This film has been voted by the AFI, I think, as the funniest movie ever made. It was such a mammoth hit.
Lou Wasserman was my agent. And when we went to do Sweets, Some Like It Hot, that was after Sweet Smelling Trapeze. And that was when these guys saw what I was able to produce it could give a company. So he started getting me deals where I got percentages of the gross. Not the net, but the gross. Marilyn and I both had 5% of the gross of that movie.
Oh.
We both got $200,000 to make the movie and 5% of the gross. The picture is 40 years old, and as of today, I've grossed, the picture has grossed for me about $23 million. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Ain't that good?
That's good.
I got a couple of pictures like that.
Oh, I know.
And that makes me feel good, my dear friend.
Well, it should.
My ego, my sense of who I am. And, I don't deal with people in Hollywood. I don't live there. I live in Las Vegas. I was always a schnorrer as far as Hollywood was concerned. I always got the dirty end of the lollipop.
Which is Marilyn Monroe's line.
Right, it's from Some Like It Hot.
Story of my life. I always get the fuzzy end of the lollipop.
Your life story is one of the most amazing stories, I think. Well, you know what it is? It's an inspirational tale on one hand, and maybe in some minor respects, a cautionary tale. But, I'm thinking about all the young actors who might be listening in, and how valuable your experiences would be to them. And
I feel, dear sir, that it's an attitude you have from the time you're a kid. You have to keep your eye on that sparrow. Nothing can change it. You have to examine all of the opportunities you may have. And that's what I did. When I was a kid, growing up in New York City, I didn't have much of a home life. My parents were Hungarian Jews. My father was a very Orthodox Jew. My mother was in between. I grew up in that family where I learned how to daven, wear a yarmulke. I had my bar mitzvah. I had all of that religious dogma. Is that a good way to use it?
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, instilled in me. And it wasn't offensive in any way. It wasn't like I had to give up anything. It was just a matter of thinking. And as I looked around, I saw my father and my mother and going to synagogue with them. It seemed a very natural thing for me to do. I liked the idea I wore a scarf, a tallis. I liked the idea I wore a yarmulke. I liked the idea that I learned certain Hebraic words and these prayers. And that was my early life in the streets. The dichotomy was extraordinary for me.
How so?
Well, I went from Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde. At home, I was a very proper boy.
Obedient?
Obedient, yes, because I saw that if I decided I wanted to be more adventurous, my father would never take anything out on me, but it would have been a tragedy for him.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted an Orthodox Jewish son who would one day have some kind of a profession. My mother was the same way. What they had hoped was for a doctor. But those early years of me in New York going to elementary school was just about the only schooling I had. I went to from that elementary school to a PS school, and when I was 8 or 9 years old, maybe a little bit older, my brother Julius was hit by a truck in New York and killed.
Oh, God.
And so I had no more eyes for school. I learned a little reading, writing, and arithmetic, and I said, thanks a lot. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Get dead. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And I did. I started to go to a high school, but I never showed up. I went out in the streets. That was the dichotomy for me. In the streets, I was Errol Flynn. I was the Count of Monte Cristo. I was all of those heroes that I saw in the movies. And now I think back, I see how simplistic it was for me, how pertinent.
Well,
the mark of Zorro.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to do anything. Now, I just looked like these guys.
I mean, I heard that at one point you joined a gang.
Yes. Well, I was in and out of these gangs. It wasn't that abrupt. I didn't walk out one day and say, I'm going to join a gang. There were these guys around that hung out with each other. But when they saw what kind of a kid I was, I'd run faster than anybody. I was smarter than anybody. I played those softball games better than anybody. So they introduced me to stealing stuff out of the 5 and 10 cent stores. And when they saw how elegant I was and how fearless I was in a gang if I wanted it. And that's the only way I wanted it, pal. I didn't want to be a card-carrying anybody.
Now, I know you identified with these great characters, with Tyrone Power and Mark of Zorro.
And you see, they became my fathers in my heart. I won't call them fathers. I had a father who was sweet and kind to me. I call them people that I emulated and liked the way they live their style, and that was what...
And wanted to be like them.
Exactly.
Right.
When I saw Errol Flynn bite into an onion and eat part of a chicken leg in some
Robin Hood.
adventure store, Robin Hood, that's what I wanted to do. And biting into that onion and eating a chicken leg was part of the ability to do it.
That's right. So I take it you went to the movies a lot.
I went to the movies a lot. That was my only saving grace for me. I grew my hair long, and I felt like a Schwartzbuckler.
Did you already at that point have ambitions to be an actor, or did you want to be a movie star?
Well, I never thought of either one.
You know, those are two different things.
I was not about to go on the screen and tear my guts out, and I didn't want to go make people cry, and I didn't want to cry. Those days in the New York streets were horrendous. My brother died in them.
Yeah.
That was the enemy. So after his untimely death, I gave up school altogether. And so I didn't prepare myself for some education.
Now, is it true that your first acting role, and this might be information that's simply no good, was the role of a little girl in an adventure drama about King Arthur?
Yes, that was me.
Well, let me ask you something. Isn't that a rather long time to audition for Some Like It Hot?
Yeah, it certainly was. The extent I made. I went from a little girl to a grown woman. With no time in between. It was too funny.
Here's an early scene from Some Like It Hot with Jack Lemmon and our very special guest, Mr. Tony Curtis.
Not since the Marx Brothers, so much comedy. The best picture this year will also be the funniest.
Got anything for us? We're desperate.
Well, it just so happens he is looking for a bass and a sax.
Look, Sid, we want to talk to you.
What is it?
It's about the Florida job.
The Florida job? What are you, a couple of comedians? Get out of here.
Well, you need a bass and a sax, don't you?
The instruments are right, but you're not.
Wait a minute, what's wrong with us?
You're the wrong shape. Goodbye.
The wrong shape? What are you looking for, hunchbacks or something?
It's not the backs that worry me.
Well, what kind of a band is it anyway?
You gotta be under 25.
We could pass for that.
You gotta be blonde.
We could dye our hair.
And you gotta be girls.
We could. No, we couldn't.
And then you got into World War II.
Right. Then I joined the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the service for 2.5 years. And while I was in the service, I just had my eye on that sparrow. I was a signalman who used to signal from one ship to the other with these big arc lights, very much like those arc lights that they use in the movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
And they had two carbon that touched each other that lit it up tremendously. Behind it was a concave mirror, I would say about 3 times the size of a manhole cover. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it was concave. And when I was in the Navy, we would clean it out, and when I opened it and I looked in that concave mirror, there I was 35 feet of me. A huge version of my face and my head. And when I saw me in that concave mirror, I said, of course I've got to be in the movies. What am I going to be, a doctor?
Well, I just thought of another question. It's something I've always been curious about. I know on your ship they ran movies, am I correct?
Yes.
Now, did you guys, when they would put on Errol Flynn in Objective Burma or Cary Grant in Destination Tokyo, would you guys laugh and say, oh my God, this is nothing like it? Or would you actually get involved in...
We would get involved. Whatever the movie was, it was shattering. You've got to remember, we didn't have any personal life.
Right.
There wasn't anything to distract us. There were no girls. All we did was clean equipment and waited to be sent to another island to do something else. I was a signalman, so I was assigned to towers where I'd signal information from one tower to the other. So you see, when I looked at these adventure movies, when I saw Gunga Din, my ears curled. I'd never seen anything like that, and I saw it the first time in the Navy. When I saw Victor McLaughlin and
Cary
Fairbanks
Grant.
Jr. and my man that I loved all my life, Cary Grant, I said, that's for me. I said, guaranteed that was for me. I saw Cary Grant in a submarine movie called
the Destination
Tokyo.
Right.
I said, that's for me. I had no doubts then. I was I was maybe 17 and a half, still in the Navy, and that confirmed it for me. Not going out with anybody because I was in the Navy. You know, I couldn't go out anywhere. I was assigned and dedicated to that, staying alive. And then, when I got out of the Navy, I found that I could use the GI Bill of Rights, that all servicemen, boys, could be able to use an educational tool.
Mm-hmm.
But my dilemma was, I didn't develop any of those tools. I didn't learn English. I knew nothing about arithmetic or whatever the other words were. I had no linguistic abilities. I didn't have any craft. I didn't want to be a garage man or fix motors or drive a trolley car. I wanted more out of life. But when I got out of the Navy, if that hadn't been for the GI Bill of Rights, I would have ended up working for my father in a tailor store, delivering clothing. I could have ended up driving a cab. All of these things. But I tell you what it had, sir.
Yeah.
It had a rear view mirror that I'd look up and see myself. And I saw what a nice-looking kid I was. I wasn't arrogant. I made myself agreeable and friendly with everybody, as I'm doing with you now on the phone.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That helped shape my character into what I wanted to be. And everybody wanted to be Tony Curtis then. Everybody wanted to improve their lives.
Right, of course.
From the anguish and the bitterness and the fear, my brother dying, my father never making enough money, my father getting a heart attack. And through all of this stuff, moving from store to store, we lived in the back of a tailor store.
How long did your father live?
He lived to be 58 in 1958, so he saw me in the movies.
Oh, that's...
He saw me in Some Like It Hot.
Oh.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Yeah, that was
great for me.
I can imagine.
Really, really. And my friend, I was the most likely to succeed. My accent was very thick and very indicative of where I came from.
We pause now for station identification.
DVD Classics Corner on the Air is exclusively produced and released by Dick Dinman's Double D Productions, Inc. All rights reserved. I'm curious about one thing, and this is just my curiosity. I know you toured the Catskill Mountain Borscht circuit. Now, for who was it? Because I did too.
It was Stanley Wolf Players.
That meet Liberty, New York?
Right.
Me too.
No kidding.
Yeah, I toured with Under the Yum Yum Tree.
Stanley Wolf Players, and I did. I did the play about anti-Semitism. This Too Shall Pass was the name of the play.
Yeah, I toured in a play called Under the Yum Yum Tree.
Oh, my dear.
I thought it was the Stanley Wolf Players,
yes,
but now
that's what it was.
That's what I figured.
And I mean, listen, that was the first time I tried it out, and I liked it. I saw what a brute it was. I saw what I had to do. I saw what it would need for me to do.
We'll return to Tony Curtis after this. My Cinemusic segment this week consists of a rendition of that great song, I Want to Be Loved by You, sung by Marilyn Monroe from the soundtrack of Some Like It Hot.
I wanna be loved by you, just you, nobody else but you. I wanna be loved by you alone, boop-boop-be-doo. I wanna be kissed by you, just you, nobody else but you. I wanna be kissed by you alone. I couldn't aspire
do anything higher than to feel the desire to make you my own. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-doodly-dum, boo! I wanna be loved by you, just you, nobody else but you. I wanna be loved by you alone. I couldn't aspire to
What are you doing with my flowers?
Just borrowing. Get them back tomorrow.
than to feel the desire to make you my own. Pa-dum, pa-dum, ba-doodly-dum, boo! I wanna be loved by you, just you, nobody else but you. I wanna be loved by you, ba-deedly-deedly-deedly-dum, boop-boopy-doop.
Back to our conversation with Tony Curtis. Now, do you remember exactly where you were when you got, I think, that phone call from Universal or from a talent scout? Or...
Yes, I mean, this may sound like a hokey, but I'm telling you the truth. I was playing stickball in the Bronx on the streets in my neighborhood, and I heard my mother call me, Bernie, Bernie. And that's how she kept in touch with me. I didn't need any small motor phone like they use today. My mother got me just by calling me. So I ran up to the house, and my mother said to me, somebody called from the studio. She left a number for me. So I took the number and called it, and it was somebody from Universal Pictures saying that they had seen The Golden Boy, the Clifford Odets play, that I did at the Cherry Lane Theater that week before. And it was a substitute experience because the play that was playing, a couple of people got ill, and so they decided to put Golden Boy up, which we all practiced. And when that was done, there I was going to California. All my dreams come true.
Oh.
After the war, about a year after using my GI Bill of Rights, getting $65 a month and going to school, and they paid for all my education.
What's amazing to me is fate, in a way, because if you would have gone, let's say, to MGM, you might have gotten buried there. You went
Absolutely.
You went to exactly the right studio because they had no stars.
And not only didn't they have any stars, but they had no flair for making movies.
That's right.
We did around the middle range of B movies.
Right.
All those pictures. But they didn't care. That distributing company didn't care. They just wanted to fill up the screens in these theaters because people wanted to get out of the house. So they didn't, wait to try to get some great film director or actor. They didn't need them.
Well, what happened, though, right around your time, and you were actually part of it, was a film called Winchester 73.
Yes.
Now,
well, that's the first time they got a major player to come in, Jimmy Stewart.
And for a huge percentage.
Yes.
And that,
and so everybody connected with that film was given a better chance at it. Everybody.
Right.
I was the only one that proceeded further than they expected after they started putting me in parts that were almost leads.
The big deal, I think, the first real rung of the success was The Prince Who Was a Thief.
Prince Who Was a Thief, The Son of Ali Baba. There was one called The Vengeance.
Well, you know what it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking over the list of the Universal International pictures you did. You did every single type of picture.
Every conceivable kind of
Now,
type.
let me just read this. Swashbucklers, Prince Who Was a Thief, Son of Ali Baba, Black Shield of Falworth, Purple Mask. Sports movies, Flesh and Fury, The Square Jungle, The All-American, Johnny Dark, a war movie, Beachhead. That was at UA, I think.
Yes.
Western.
That was alone out.
Yeah. Western, Rawhide Years, Crime Forbidden, Six Bridges to Cross, Comedy, No Room for the Groom. It just... It seems to me that you were being paid to be trained.
Exactly. Isn't that a good way to put it, pal? That was exactly. They kept putting me in any kind of movie, and I came through in any kind of movie. Not that I knew what I was doing, but I was a good-looking kid, and the clothing looked well on me, and I was sincere. I looked everybody in the eye. There was no studio or acting madness bumping into my brain.
You know what it
I
is?
ran across the actor studio in his early days. Marlon had already created it.
Right, that's true.
I never went near any of that. And I was thought less because I didn't.
Well, you know what is striking about your early appearances, even in these swashbucklers, and sometimes people make fun of them, but what's there is a tremendous enthusiasm, as if you're exactly where you want to be.
Thanks, pal. That's exactly what it was.
I figured that.
I was so thrilled.
And here you are.
There I am, 23, 24 years old, in the movies, going to rushes at the end of a day's work, looking at a cut of one of those films. There I am, 35 feet on the screen, and I think back 7 years, and there I was a kid in New York City, watching Cary Grant, or the beginning of Burt Lancaster, all of those movies, and there I was in the same profession.
Yeah.
My dear friend, it was a miracle.
We'll return after this.
Factoid, 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 factoid.
Some Like It Hot was originally conceived to star Frank Sinatra, Danny Kaye or Bob Hope, and Mitzi Gaynor, as Jack Lemmon at the time was not considered a big enough name. Of course, when Marilyn Monroe nabbed the distaff lead, and our boy Tony, the female co-lead, Lemmon was belatedly offered her role. Back to our conversation with Tony Curtis. Did any of it go to your head?
Nothing.
Because it seems to me to be a danger that suddenly when you're thrust into that kind of a thing, you go a little nuts.
No, not for me. I was prepared for it. On one hand, I knew I was getting into the movies. And when I got into it, I realized what hard work it was to learn lines, to be able to tell distances, to be able to use it mathematically, to figure out how quickly I could get to an emotion. And this was a development I found. So I didn't need, as you say, an acting school. I just needed the experience.
I heard in one interview with Robert Osborne, you told a story that I think is very important, especially for the young actors. This is on the Lady Gambles. Do you know?
Yes.
Do you know the story?
Yes, I do. Michael Gordon was the director. He came all around the way to the back of the set. I was to come in as a bellboy with a letter. That the line was, "It looks like it's followed you halfway across the country." And I was dressed like a bellboy. And I had a sty. And I said to Michael, I said, "Mr. Gordon, I got a sty. My eye is a little swollen." He says, "Kid, you're better looking with one eye than anybody I've seen with two, so don't worry about it." Well, it was a nice way to put me at ease. I had a little cap on my head. I really looked like the all call for Philip Morris, you know that. Yeah. Anyway, there I am, and I'm standing backstage waiting for the red light to go out where I come in and say that line. And Mike White walked all around the way in the back to where I was standing. He says, "How you feeling?" Because he knew it was going to be the first job at speaking. I says, "I'm feeling good." He says, "You look good." "Oh, I'm glad." He says, "You feel relaxed?" He said, "You look comfortable." I said, "Well, I'm feeling good." He says, "Okay, when that red light goes on, come in." And he started to walk away, and he turned, and before that I was doing, "It looks like it's followed you halfway across the country." It looks like it's followed you halfway across the country. It looks like it's followed you halfway across the country. I tried every conceivable way to say that line. And just before he left me, he turned and looked at me, he said, "Kid, all you want is a tip." He turned around and walked to the front of where the camera was. That was the best film direction I ever got from anybody. That was the best direction I got from anybody.
That's all.
All I wanted was a tip. I didn't have to psychologically examine when my mother got laid. And if I didn't have a sister, would I have wanted to touch her? All of that stuff that we use in acting schools, the method,
Yeah.
flew out the window.
Yeah.
I was really so privileged. Talking to you now, I am the most privileged of men. Here I am. I just turned 80 years of age, And I've got the same enthusiasm I had when I was a kid.
You certainly.
My eye has always been on that sparrow.
Well, that's my show for today. DVD Classics Corner on the Air is conceived, written, produced, and directed by me, Double D. And if you'd like to hear some of my older, vintage shows, please go to www.dvdclassicscorner.net, where in addition to the broadcasts, you'll find hundreds of my print reviews of classic DVD releases. So, until next week,
Keep well, keep happy, and keep listening.